So welcome to the GreenSpot Conversations, a webinar series created by the GreenSpot Advisory Board, which delves into the different aspects of sustainability in our community. We are planning on many of these entries in the series, and you can get the latest by becoming a GreenSpot member, which is easy by going to www.columbusgreenspot.org. We also promote these on our social media on Facebook and on Twitter. And a little bit more about GreenSpot real quick before we get into the heart of the discussion. We view sustainability as when you have the environment, when you have economy, and when you have equity or people all moving in the same direction. That's when you truly have sustainability. And I would even take it one step further and say where we really thrive as a community. A little bit about GreenSpot. We have over 20,000 members. It's a program that inspires, educates, and recognizes households, businesses, organizations, neighborhoods now that adopt sustainable practices. And we have a kind of a platform in which they can choose from. This is a little bit of the savings our members have seen, although these are really conservative estimates. This is just what's reported. So with that, let's go ahead and start. And with Greenspaces, hidden Greenspaces, I'm kind of curious with our panelists. And you know what? I forgot to introduce our panelists. So let's introduce them because it was jam-packed. I figure everybody already knows our panelists because they are very much out in the community. But for those of you who don't, we have Tim Moloney, who joined the Columbus and Franklin County Metro Park District as their executive director in December of 2014. Now, Metro Parks, believe it or not, is the largest locally managed park system in Ohio. In 2020, over how many visitors do you think they had? 14 million visitors enjoyed a trip to the Metro Parks. Tim has spent his entire career working in the parks of Central Ohio. Growing up in Columbus, he has spent a lifetime exploring the creeks, ravines, and parks here in Central Ohio. Welcome, Tim, and thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thanks for having us.
We also have Tina Fronk, who is also with the Columbus and Franklin County Metro Parks, and she is the social media specialist. She started there in June of 2017. She's responsible for engaging with the community through various social media platforms. Tina has dedicated her career to public service and previously worked for the Summit County Prosecutor's Office and the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board of Franklin County. As a Columbus native, Tina grew up exploring the incredible park system here with her family. Thank you, Tina, for being here as well.
Thanks for having me.
We also have Tina Moan, who is the Natural Resource and Asset Manager for the City of Columbus, the Recreation and Parks Department. She manages aspects of acquisition, land management, master planning, conservation, and ecosystem protection, nature preserves, sustainability, and projects related to park improvements. Welcome, Tina. We also have Rosalie Hendon, who is the environmental planner for the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department. She manages natural resource projects on city parkland, everything from forests to prairie. An advocate of data-driven approaches to conservation work, Rosalie has frequently surveyed species in Columbus parks to determine the effects of habitat restoration. Welcome, Rosalie.
Thanks, Dave. Great to be here.
So if there's ever a group I would love to talk to about Central Ohio's green spaces, City of Columbus and Franklin County hidden green spaces, you all would be it. So I'm really appreciative that you took the time to be here and talk about it. And when we talk about hidden spaces, I'm going to kind of open it up here first. What comes to your mind? Like if somebody contacts the park district or the city recreation and parks and says, what are some of the often beaten paths? What are some of those hidden places? What comes into your mind when somebody says that? And Tim and Tina, I'll call on you to put you on the spot. But what pops into your mind?
I think anywhere that you can find a place to hike under a tree, find a creek, find a ravine, that's a hidden space. And whether it's in Clintonville, whether it's in Linden, whether it's one of our metro parks, there are thousands of these spaces. And sure, we've got our favorites and we've got ones we share, but I think it's really for you to discover. I mean, I grew up in the Clintonville area, and I can tell you Adena Brook was my hidden space as a kid. I wouldn't be sitting in this seat right now if it wasn't for Adena Brook. It's where I first discovered nature. But that's what's really great about Columbus and the Central Ohio community is there are thousands of these spaces for everyone to enjoy.
I think for me, a hidden green space is anywhere that I haven't discovered before. I take recommendations from my friends and family, and one of the best parts about working for the park district is I've been able to discover those through my work. But anywhere you can get out in nature, connect with the natural world, and feel at one with nature is a hidden green space for me.
Tina and Rosalie, what about you all?
I was going to say, thanks. You know, I totally agree with you, Tina. Working for Columbus Rec and Parks, there's so many spaces that I didn't know about before I started working for the city. I really enjoy exploring. There's so many great spaces, but especially around the reservoirs. I got a paddle board last year, and I really enjoy getting out on Hoover Reservoir and exploring. There's some beautiful nature preserve land right next to the reservoir, and it really gives a different feel as you're paddling to see it from the water. So that's definitely hidden, getting to see a part of Columbus that you can only really see from the water.
Yeah, I would say, just echoing that, in terms of hidden gems or hidden green spaces, I don't think that they're always hidden. I think they can be right in front of your face and you can pass by them every day, commuting to work or whatever it might be. And I think it's personal. Whatever you think is, you know, that part for you, it is then. You make it that way. And I think that it's just a blessing to have spaces that you can go to passively or actively recreate. And for the person that, you know, is discovering, or maybe you've been there every day, or you go there often and you frequent with your family or your dog or friends, even then it still can be that, you know, some parts of that space are still hidden, and it's a discovery each time that you go to them.
I love all of your answers. You know, the one thing with me that I realized is being aware of the programming that you all have, because yeah, everybody knows of Park of Roses, but maybe they don't know all those spaces within Park of Roses. Maybe they just go to one spot, and there's a whole other Park of Roses that you can explore. And especially when you have like an expert, whether it's a naturalist or somebody at one of the rec centers telling you about that area, it really does kind of open your eyes to what we have right here. You know, I've always heard, you know, to see big nature, you got to go out west, right? To see the bison. Well, we have bison here, right? You know, to see the mountains. Well, you know, we have more hills here, right? But once you start looking around, you realize you know, there's almost, 100 common species of trees alone, let alone when you get down into all the wildlife and the landscapes that are here in Central Ohio. It really is cool. I do want to kind of turn now, and I want to turn it over to Tim and Tina. I'm going to share my screen again here. And if you want to walk us through some of these spaces that you've mentioned. Can you all see my screen?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So this is from Clear Creek Metro Park. It's my personal favorite Metro Park. I know Tim loves it as well, but this is one of those hidden green spaces. It's located down south in Rockbridge, and you know, it is more secluded, more private. But when you go there, it's like stepping into a fantasy world. You step in, you're walking through massive stands of hemlock trees. There's a Clear Creek runs through the entire park. It's so peaceful and relaxing. And it's just one of those places that it's worth the drive. You go there and you're just in a totally different world.
Yeah, to add to that, if you haven't been to Clear Creek, shame on you. It is a 6,000 acre singular land block right on the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. It is how Ohio looked 200 years ago. It's, you know, 45-minute drive from most of Central Ohio. And like Tina said, you'll see 100-year-old hemlocks. You'll see forest canopy that's tough to find anywhere, let alone here in Central Ohio. And, you know, we've got a bear population there. We've got a bobcat population. There's trout in the stream. I mean, it is just a spectacular place.
And to top that off, there's also massive sandstone cliffs that are gorgeous to see. When you drive into the park, there's a massive boulder that hangs over the road. There's so many different features. It's definitely worth the trip.
I love the Hemlock Trail.
It's a good workout too.
Favorite trail. Yeah, it is.
So I guess, you know, we just talked about a 6,000 acre park, but here on the western edge of Franklin County is the Big and Little Darby Creeks, which are a national and state scenic river. It is how Ohio looked long before we came here. And for a city the size of Columbus to have a resource like the Big Darby Creek, where industry has not developed on it, really no residential on it. It's got some farming on it. But the reason it's a federal scenic river is obvious, because it is a true amazing asset for Central Ohio. You know, this is not too, you know, you've got a 7,000, almost 8,000 acre park in Big Darby. You've got another 2,000 acres with prairie oaks, all built along these river corridors, and hundreds of species of fish, hundreds, you know, animals. The plant diversity is second to none. Native prairies that have been reestablished. It really is a crown jewel for all of Central Ohio. And I don't know, you'll never get me to say where my favorites are, but if you haven't been to, you know, the Big Darby Creek, whether it's at Prairie Oaks, whether it's at Battelle Darby, you've really sold yourself short because of what it can offer Central Ohio. And Tina's probably going to say it's her favorite park here in a second as well.
It's definitely up there. And Rosalie, I know you said you love water sports. Big Darby Creek is one of the most amazing places to paddle, basically year round, but fall and summer, it's stunning views. You will hear all different types of birds. You may see turtles on logs, or, you know, if you're lucky, maybe a snake. It's just one of those great places. And David mentioned seeing bison. This is the park to do it. We actually had some babies a couple months ago. So if you haven't been out, you know, in the next month or two, some of the prairies are going to be in bloom. So it's an absolutely breathtaking park for scenery, but also wildlife, and to get out on the water.
Now, if somebody is like, if they haven't been, I know everybody is been to Big Darby, but if somebody who, let's say they're moving in from, you know, from a different hemisphere, because surely everybody here has been into Big Darby, like what would you tell them first to explore? Would it be the nature center? Would it be looking to see where the bison are? Is there a particular trail that this time of year, Tim, you had mentioned with the prairies? What would you tell them?
Okay, so you just came here from wherever. I would say get on Darby Creek Drive, and when you see the sign that says Nature Center, start your visit there. Not only is it a world-class nature center overlooking native prairies with a herd of bison in it, right there alone is worth your drive from the other hemisphere. But inside the nature center, we've built a replica of the Big Darby Creek. So all the features that you'll see in the Big Darby Creek are represented in this live living ecosystem. So everything from rainbow darters to chubs to even, you know, freshwater drum are represented live in this creek. That'll kind of get your energy going. And then from that place, you can head down to Cedar Ridge, which is just maybe a half a mile hike down to get into the high bluffs and the scenic overlooks with some great river access. Then if you just head maybe another mile or two south down to Alkire Road, you can get onto the Ancient Trail, which really, it's one, a great trail to hike, but it also then takes you back into a previous time where Native Americans were here. You know, they lived up and down these creeks and these valleys, and you get a real feel of what it was like back then, right in the middle of a big giant city.
So speaking of which, if you take the Dyer Mill Trail, which is over by our ice skating pond, right now there's going to be pollinators out. The meadows are going to start to bloom and attract different bees and butterflies. And if you pack a picnic, you can actually hike that trail, and there's a little picnic spot that overlooks Little Darby Creek, which is a great area. And there's also a totem pole along that trail, which is kind of cool to see. There's a little history behind it. And then lastly, if you're a dog lover like myself, you could head down to Osprey Lake. It's got a doggy beach where your dog can jump in the water, swim. It loops around the lake, so if you want to hike and have your dog take a swim, it's great for that as well.
And there's thousands of things to do there, but one of our more recent additions to the park is we now have multi-night backpacking available at the park. So we've got our overnight backpacking, kind of the introduction down at Scioto Grove. This is, if you've done well there or you're an experienced backpacker, this is a great way to spend a couple of nights in the park, really getting to places that aren't anywhere close to a parking lot or a more traveled trail.
That's great. And do you all still have the Hellbender at the Nature Center there? Awesome.
Yeah, so we have an example of a Hellbender at the Nature Center. That was part of a project we did with Ohio State University, the Columbus Zoo, and a couple other partners where we reintroduced the Hellbender to the Big Darby Creek. And while all of them do have tracking devices on them, this is something, you know, the Hellbender hadn't been in Big Darby Creek for 40, 50, 60 years, and now it is reestablished. It's still too early to tell how well they've done, but that's an exciting time. I'd be surprised if anyone can find a Hellbender. They are a pretty reclusive species.
Yeah, absolutely. Old lasagna size, right? I think that's one of the names of them.
Yes.
So what about this herb garden?
Oh, so this is one of those hidden green spaces that it's nestled in Westerville, but it's a themed botanical garden. So I think there's 10 or 11 different themed gardens. This is the herb garden. They have a spectacular rose garden that throughout the month of June has beautiful blooms. Their theme this year is kaleidoscope of color. And so you can see the container gardens that they've planted with just bright reds, oranges, yellows, every color of the rainbow. They have a rock garden, which is really nice to go sit, relax, just connect with nature, maybe journal. And then they have a really fun play area called Granny's Garden or Granny's House, and it's got some features that are really attractive for kids. So it's a great place to bring the family. It's one of our smaller metro parks, but it's great just to walk around and see the other side of nature. I know often I think of nature as forests and woods. This is the other side that, you know, is equally as beautiful and just as fun to spend time in.
Oh, well, here's a success story that I think everybody on this call can take a little credit for. So, you know, you just go back 30 years or so, and there were no bald eagles in Central Ohio. And within our metro parks, we've got several nesting pairs within, you know, and Tina, I'm gonna take a little thunder out of you from Columbus. Even down at Berliner Park, you know, we've got nesting ospreys sitting on the light towers at the softball fields. So this is a great, you know, just kind of let nature have it, you know, without our interference and success stories. But if you haven't seen a bald eagle, probably the easiest and best place to see one is out of Pickerington Ponds, a long established nest. High Banks has a long established nest. There's a nest now along the Scioto River, just would that be south of Grandview. Spectacular species, and really, if you haven't seen one, the first word that comes to mind is huge. I mean, this will be a bird larger than any bird you've probably ever seen. But you know, this couldn't have been done without, you know, what we have here in Central Ohio between all of our park systems.
All right, well, and I know like there's just not enough time to do this justice. But I do want to get to the Columbus Recreation and Parks. We're about halfway through. If anybody has any questions, or maybe you have a hidden gem that you want to let people know. Of course, I know the irony of doing a webinar and recording it about hidden places, right? But go ahead and type that in the chat. And so it looks like we have somebody mentioned they love Clear Creek. So I know, like for me, I try to get down there about once a month or so. It's just a phenomenal area. And even in, you know, jumping back into the city of Columbus, there's a a park near where I live that, and it's on one of these slides, so I'm not going to say what it is, but when I saw it on the slide, I was like, of course, I've been there, and they have skunk cabbage and all sorts of cool stuff. And this might be a good time to turn it over to Rosalie and Tina.
It's great that we were following this picture with the picture of the giant bald eagle. Thanks a lot, Tim and Tina. It's a great segue into our beautiful wetland forest here, but we'll go with it. Yeah, so Rosalie and I are excited to talk with you guys. You're going to hear a lot of what Tim and Tina talked about too, that sort of stretches across the city. Hopefully you'll learn a couple spaces, even if you've been to the park, like we talked about earlier, maybe you don't know and you'll learn something about an aspect of the park. Yeah, so we can go, am I controlling the slides, David? Okay.
No, just let me know when you want, let me know when you want me to advance them.
Yeah, you can advance. Just a little bit about us. This is, you know, just we like to share out our mission statement. I think it's really important. You know, a lot of our partners, including Metro Parks, can share in this, connecting the people of our community to the power of nature, wellness, and creativity. I don't think it needs much introduction. That's exactly what we're trying to do when we go to bat to acquire properties or to enhance them, protecting wetlands, bald eagle nests, in spaces that we believe are not only hidden gems, but that the state of Ohio doesn't always have the opportunity to protect. So we're blessed that we're able to, in our mission, do that. What we are, we're a lot of things for sure, but what we're excited the most about and why we're talking today, you can see some of the numbers that we put up. 400 parks. I think we're sitting at 401 right now, which we're excited about. Something that number is going to continue to grow. A lot of partnerships with Metro Parks, so we're excited to see some things that are on the horizon there to help increase our numbers. Not just because we want to have a larger number, but because we want to continue to conserve and preserve our natural areas. And 19 nature preserves. We're going to talk and show you some of our nature preserves in a second, but that's a pretty big number. I think it's important to make mention of having a nature preserve advisory council and a nature preserve program within the city of Columbus, and a lot of city departments don't have that. So we're excited about it, and you know, we feel pretty proud to have something like that and have a nature preserve advisory council that's filled with like-minded folks, academia, state, federal, county employees that help and volunteer their time to create these hidden gem spaces. So that I mean, you can see the numbers on some of the other things, but for what we're talking about, and the regional trail, Tim and Tina are part of our regional trail system, 230 miles, and even off of our trail system, I think you'll find if you've not been on any stretch of the trail system, I would be surprised. That's okay. There's still time. We're growing that number as well, but there are a lot of really neat areas off of our trail system that, unless you're on the trail system, you might not otherwise see. So we're excited about that as well. A little difficult to see our map of our trail and park system, but you can see that the green blobs are important because they're taking up space on this map, but they're taking up space in your community for you, for us, and those numbers we intend to continue to grow and create maps that are in your face so that you can see them every day. You know how to get to them. And even the smallest of the dots, which look really small on these maps, are spaces that hold a lot of importance to us and are important to the community, ecological community, but also our community in which they're found in. And Rosalie's going to talk a little bit about some of those spaces. 19 nature preserves, like we talked about. Some of them take a lot of space on the reservoirs. And we have 3 reservoirs within the city of Columbus. A lot of folks don't know, but we have parkland on all 3 of them, and we have nature preserves on all 3 of them. So Griggs, O'Shaughnessy, and Hoover are our 3 nature preserves. And you can see from the map, we're covering some space. We hope to, in 21, 22, expand our nature preserve portfolio, although we feel pretty confident about what we've done so far. Again, working with Metro Parks, we know that there are some spaces that we intend on going after in terms of acquisition to create more conservation spaces and protect what's there. A lot of our nature preserves have threatened and endangered species, both plant and animal, high quality wetlands, high quality stream stretches, and that's what makes them stand out above and beyond our typical parkland. So I'll turn it over to Rosalie to talk about the exciting stuff.
Thank you, Tina, for introducing. So I just wanted to go through high level a couple of spaces, specific spaces with you all that you may or may not be aware of. I'm going to go through a couple of nature preserves first. So this is Whetstone Park Nature Preserve. I think it's our smallest nature preserve, just about a little over 1.5 acres. It's our oldest designated nature preserve. You can see that it was designated in 1909 as a bird sanctuary and flower preserve. So we enjoy that piece of history. There's a tributary of the Olentangy running through it, a lot of spring ephemerals, really neat space. You can see it's pretty undisturbed, understory, excuse me, and the community is surrounded by just a neighborhood. It's in Clintonville. Tim, maybe you're familiar, and you would miss it, if you didn't know it was there. Next slide, thanks. Woodward Park is another of our nature preserves. It's adjacent to the Woodward Community Center and also Woodward Park Middle School. So it's a great resource, just right on site for those 2 entities. 34 acres, mature maple beech forest. We've got a hiking trail, as you can see, that goes through, supports a lot of great wildlife, salamanders, owls, even flying squirrels. So this is a great nature preserve to check out as well. Next slide. Lawrence Woods is one of Tina and my favorite nature preserves within our system. It's adjacent to Hoover Reservoir, so it's one of the many nature preserves around Hoover Reservoir. It's got a hiking trail. It's beautiful in the fall. 29 acres. Again, maple beech forest. Several ravines with 2 overlooks looking over the ravines. And in the fall, the ravines are forming mud flats. So really great space to check out as well. Next slide, thanks. And then moving into some of our other parks. So Innis Park is a space with a lot of soccer fields, playground, shelter, but it also has a great connection to the Alum Creek Trail, which, as you're probably familiar, it's one of our longest trails in Columbus. And there's this really cool boardwalk that you can access just going north on the trail from Innis Park. So plenty of parking there, and then there's this really long boardwalk over these wetlands. And what I like to do if I just want to go for a stretch of the Alum Creek, especially just, walking or jogging, it's great to start at Ennis, go north, you pass Champions Golf Course, the Easton Soccer Fields, and you can go all the way up to Strawberry Farms Park. It's a nice, back and forth stretch on Alum Creek if you're not in it for the long haul. But I didn't realize that this boardwalk was there until I was walking the trail, and it's really beautiful. Thanks. And then Spindler Road Park is on the west side of Columbus. And in addition to soccer fields, there's also there's one of our dog parks there with actually 2 different fenced areas for large and small dogs. The whole park itself is over 100 acres. And what's great about the dog park area specifically is if you park there, you can connect to Mudsock Trail and walk along the stream and walk all the way up to Frank's Park. So another little hidden space that I wasn't aware of until I started working for Columbus.
So how did they get the name Mudsock?
There's actually educational signage, Dave, on the trail that's neat. There's a couple different theories about it. One is that there was a town in that area that was called Mudsock, and the theory that I like is that it was muddy. You know, the paths into the town had deep mud at times, and so it looked like the horses were wearing socks. You know, because the mud was so deep. So I don't know if that's 100% the reason, but I like to think of it that way. Yeah.
That is. I think of like kids coming back of a day of playing out in nature, and they forgot to take their socks off, or they took their shoes off and not their socks. And but I like the horse one better.
And then this is where we'll leave you, is kind of just looking towards the future. So Gender Road Parkland, we've owned for several years now, and it's pretty close to Pickerington Ponds with Metro. It's 32 acres. You can see the green outline on the map there. Really, we're excited about the potential for this space. So wanted to let you all know that we are planning on engaging the community this fall to see how we design this park. You can see that George Creek runs through the southwest corner, and just a lot of potential that we see here.
Can I jump in on you here, Rosalie? Go back to that slide. So this is the partnership, because if you look all around the Gender Road Parkland, that's the newest addition to the Metro Park system that we're getting ready to open in like a couple of weeks. So if you want a real hidden gem, nobody has been in there. You can see the multi-use trail going through there. You can see the ponds that we've developed, the parking lot. This is going to be a kind of a high adventure area, a play area, a little, that family friendly, exciting area of Pickerington Ponds, but we're calling it Burning Lake, which kind of refers back to the original Kettle Lakes out at Pickerington Ponds that actually caught fire at one time with the peat that's associated with them. So this is a really exciting for anybody on the call. With Columbus's development, with Metro Parks opening this up in an area of the city that's growing by leaps and bounds. So thank you for showing this one, Rosalie.
We knew you'd be excited, Tim. We're a little behind, but we're working on it.
That's all from us, Steve. Thanks. Just wanted to hit a few high-level things, and yeah, I'm glad we ended on that one, Tim. Excited about that partnership.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that speaks to a number of different things. I think that speaks to the collaboration approach that in Central Ohio is so prevalent, right? In such a good way, is that you really can't, we're not our own islands, right? So we need to collaborate, and when you do, you see the benefits of that. Something else that I really like is, with the park scope at the Metro Parks, it has a map of Central Ohio and where all the Metro Parks are. So you could plan a weekend where you hit maybe a couple of those Metro Parks if you want. And Rosalie and Tina, with the map that you showed, a map of Columbus Recreation Parks parks. So it's like you can have a whole weekend where it's like, I hate the word staycation, but I'm going to use it anyway. You could plan out like a weekend of nature trips and not even leave Franklin County. And you'll see things that you probably haven't seen before. There's a place up in Delaware County, but it's Hoover Meadows that I love to visit. And there's prairies there, there's wetlands there. I've seen bald eagles up there, turkeys, like all sorts of really cool things. And even though I've seen monarch butterflies before, when I see them there, you always get excited. You're like, oh my gosh, is that a viceroy, which is like a monarch, faker almost. They're pretending to be a monarch butterfly, but no, that's an actual monarch butterfly. Or even some of our mammal friends, when you're like, is that a skunk I smell? Maybe we ought to, go to more open areas so we can get a visual. But that's like part of the fun about being in our green spaces in Central Ohio, is that for the most part, yeah, you do have to be careful, but we don't have wolves that are going to eat you. We don't have, I know we have some black bears, but we don't have like grizzly bears or polar bears. It's relatively safe to be out in nature in Columbus and in Franklin County, and it's like so much to discover. Looking to see what type of programming the Metro Parks has, Recreation and Parks has, because that's really kind of like your key to these emerald jewels, right? It's like you can go to, say, Antrim Lake, which is a really cool place. But if you don't know where to look, it might just kind of look all the same. It's like, yeah, it's pretty cool, but maybe there's a certain type of flower that only blooms, a certain time of year in this one spot. And that reminds me of like with the metro parks, like with Clear Creek. Um, there is one flower, and hopefully I'm not like, ruining something here. Although you guys have it in a cage, I think, to keep the deer out. So that's cool. Um, oh, you know what? It's not on this presentation, so I'm not going to be able to show it. But it is one of the lady slippers that you all have there. You have to like hike up, one of the hills there, and it's quite a workout. And then you're rewarded by seeing this really cool yellow lady slipper. And all of the way up, there's different flowers that are blooming at different times of year. If you go out to Clear Creek, right now, it's going to be different than if you go from a month now or if you go in May. Webster Park, with the skunk cabbage, that only comes out really early. That's a plant that gets about, what, 60 degrees, I think, and melts snow around it. It's one of the first blooming flowers that we have here. So it's just really cool things that we got going on. If anybody has questions, any of our attendees, please type those in the chat. Or if you have like a hidden wonder, hidden gem that you want to let folks know about, take a second and write that in there. And I will say, like, what are some of the upcoming events that you all have that you want to let people know about? Tim and Tina, I'll turn it over to you. What does Metro Parks have coming up that you want folks to know about?
So I'll jump in and answer Sandy's question. Does the Innis City Park connect to Innis Wood Metro Park? No, they aren't connected. They're both on the northeast side of town. And really make a day out of it, just like you were talking about. You can hit, they're probably 5 minutes apart, 10 minutes at the most from car. But one's along Big Walnut and one's along Allen Creek. So but big events we have coming up. Summertime is where we do everything. If in a normal year, I would tell you we're getting ready for Red, White, and Boom, but none of us are getting ready for that right now. But we've got special events throughout our park district through the summer. Best way of doing it is through metroparks.net. But some of our bigger events coming up, we've got the Outdoor Adventure at High Banks coming up here in July. We've got Scioto Fest coming up in September. Wag Fest is it in August or September this year?
I think it's September.
Yeah, Wag Fest, which is just about 10,000 of your closest friends and about 10,000 of your closest dog friends all in one day out at Prairie Oaks. Because of the regionality of our park system, each park also has their own special events, their own flavor, their own items they like to do. Really, as we're rolling out of COVID, all the parks are kind of getting out and engaging with the public, more and more each and every day. So those are our big special events coming up. Our programs are back in full force. We learned during COVID that spontaneous programs are what's wanted. We've got Outdoor Adventure, which is, and I know Columbus Rec and Parks does as well. That's our canoeing, kayaking. Those programs are real spontaneous. We get a nice evening on a Tuesday night. We'll send out a tweet or some type of social media blast and say, hey, come on out to Prairie Oaks for some stand-up paddleboarding. So really stay engaged with our social media is the best way to find out about anything, and get out and explore.
Very cool. And Tina and Rosalie, what about you kind of alluded to some of the big projects that are going on. What are maybe one or two other ones?
We have projects related to our summer camps and things like that are going on throughout 4 of our parks. And then we have a mobile unit, outdoor education unit, which is pretty cool. That's making its way to all of our community, all the community centers that it can go to at least. It's making its way there with archery, a fishing program. Some of the community centers have their own passport to fishing program as well. So we have a lot of those events that are happening. We've recently stocked our ponds, some of the small fishing ponds that we have. And with ODNR's help, we've had Antrim Lake recently stocked. So those kind of lend to some of our summer programming that's not necessarily programming, I guess. And then we have a couple of projects that one really cool project that we're we're managing the aspect of, because it's going to be an urban forest, so more of that to come. It'll be the first that we've done within the city of Columbus park systems, so we're very excited about rolling that out likely in the fall. And what else, Rosalie? What else am I missing? I know you also have some prairie stuff happening in the fall as well.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. Yeah, I was going to mention we have an annual pollinator field day that we have at Whetstone Park, so the same area with Park of Roses. But if you haven't seen Whetstone Prairie, it's a neat space. We've been managing it over the past several years. We have a management plan for it, and it's really come back. There's been a lot of seeds that were in the seed bank, a lot of native plants coming up. I just saw a species of prairie onion that I had never seen there at the park just the other day when I was there. So look for that in October. We usually have educational, aspects to the event, for families or anybody really to learn about pollinators. And then we also offer habitat tours throughout the prairie to, get to know with our outdoor education staff what species are growing there, but also what pollinators might be able to see. It's really cute with butterfly nets, seeing what we can catch. And also volunteer work day where we do both woody plant removal and seed collection as well that we've been using. So it's really our third year this year of having our pollinator field day, and we use that seed to create other habitats. And we actually shout out to you all at Metro. Carrie Morrow was the one to teach me about seed collection with volunteers, because you all do it on a whole other scale. That's our, dipping our toes. We definitely learn a lot, from our partners. So
That's great. I mean, there's so much going on. It's hard to keep up, but it sounds like following you all on social media is the way to go. I know with GreenSpot, our GreenSpot members learn about things that we're doing on our social media as well as through our e-newsletter that goes out. I know we're at time now, but there is one more question. And this is for Tina and Rosalie. But where is Lawrence Woods? How do they get there? And I do want to differentiate. There is a state Lawrence Woods, but we're not talking about that, correct? We're talking about one here in Columbus.
Yeah, we have one that's really close. North of Hoover, near the village of Galena. It's definitely hidden. That's what makes it so cool. We have an unimproved trail. It's a great trail run. It's small. It's just a small loop trail, but you'll get to see aspects of Hoover that you wouldn't otherwise. And there's some elevation change, which makes it kind of cool. A lot of mature trees, and it like I said, it was a combination of grant funds and also working with the adjacent property owner who wanted to have it preserved. So we really had a great collaboration there. But it is off of let me think, near Red Bank and Sunbury, and near the village of Galena, across from what we call our Twin Bridges boat ramp on Hoover. It's right across the street, so you'd park there and then you would just hike across. And we have signage there as well. The other question I saw too was about West Case Road, also known as the OSU Sheep Farm. Someone had asked a question about that. And great timing. We're meeting. We've selected a consultant, so we've been through the bidding process. We've selected a consultant, like I said, and we're working through some very high level conversations at this point. The aspects of West Case Road that we want to make sure that we're embracing and keeping with, aside from, we have particular restrictions on because of the OSU airport. So we sort of, we have some limitations there, but we're definitely going to embrace some of the prairie meadow sort of aspects with the built environment. We haven't gotten far at all except to talk about the buckets that we know we want to include. It's a large enough space that we feel pretty confident we're going to be able to include a little bit of everything so that everyone can participate in some way. But just getting started with West Case Road, I would say, or West Case Parkland, I would say fall, winter, and definitely early spring. There will be more information again that we're sort of going to keep updating on our construction website page through our main web page.
Great, thank you, Tina. You know, the one thing too about being out in nature, it's not only good to have green spaces for our natural, you know, native friends, both flowers, fauna, and flora, but it's also important for our mental health. There have been a number of studies that have shown that depression rates do go down when people have access to nature. You know, you get more physical activity in nature. I kind of say nature is almost like the original reality TV show, although it doesn't suck at the end. You know, it's like, wow, this is really cool. I want to keep going back. And there, obviously, there's a plethora of different parks and spaces that we've heard today that you can make a trip, make a weekend out of it. So I encourage folks to get out there and enjoy nature. It is one of the GreenSpot commitments, believe it or not, to visit a city or Franklin County Metro Park at least 3 times a month, which, you know, hopefully you can do more than that. But I do want to thank Rosalie, Tina, and Tim for taking the time today to let us know about some of these hidden green spaces. I know we could probably talk for another hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, but this is all the time that we got for now. So thanks, everybody, and have a good rest of the day.
Thanks,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Thanks.